Hey guys, tonight we drift into a realm that existed before anything could be named. Before stars, before time, before even the idea of before. You float, not through darkness, not through silence, but through something far more mysterious, the absence of everything. And it's not cold, or empty, or even quiet in the way we know quiet. It simply isn't. Imagine lying on your back in the middle of a dreamless dream. No light dances, no sound stays, no atoms hum. You're not even sure you exist. And that's kind of the point. This is the silence before silence. It's where everything that ever was or ever will be is locked tight, not in a box, but in a possibility. And now, the awkward truth. No, you probably won't survive this. Not this vast story, not this universe, not even this night without eventually drifting off, lost in the folds of sleep as the cosmos unfolds around you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the universe you're falling asleep from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hover in a space that has no space, a moment with no time. You don't breathe, not because you can't, but because breath hasn't been invented yet. Time hasn't said hello. Dimensions haven't formed their polite corners. You are suspended in what philosophers call the void, but even that word is too crowded. You're not even in zero. You're in something less than zero, something quieter than quiet. And yet, you feel something. A tension, a readiness, a stillness so pregnant with maybe that you can almost hear it breathing. Physicists call this moment before the Big Bang, and to be honest, they hate talking about it. Equations break here. Time melts like chocolate left in sunlight. Every law, every constant, every comfortable understanding dissolves into poetic guesses. You're in a mystery that science barely dares whisper about. But still, they try. Some argue that before the Big Bang has no meaning at all. Time began with the bang. It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. You chuckle at that analogy, drifting sideways in nothing. But then you wonder, what if they're wrong? What if something was here? You feel the answer is not in facts but in feelings. Not in precision, but in presence. This pre-cosmic hush is not empty, it's full of waiting. And if you squint, well, not with eyes, but with curiosity, you might glimpse hints of future stars, of galaxies unborn, of poems never written. Everything is compressed here, not physically, because there's no space to compress into, but conceptually, metaphorically, spiritually. You're in a kind of sacred pause, a long, universe-sized inhale before the exhale of creation. You reach out your hand, not to touch, but to wonder, and some way, deep beneath thought, you feel the stirrings of a cosmic heartbeat. Not rhythmic yet, just a twitch, a shiver of intention. Some fringe theories whisper that this nothing is a false nothing, that it is, in fact, a boiling sea of possibility, a quantum foam foaming beneath all definitions. And from that chaos, patterns are inevitable. Given infinity, even impossible things happen eventually. You happen. Physics happens. Pineapples happen. You giggle softly. Pineapples. In the void. How absurdly perfect. And yet, that's the tone of this place. Sacred absurdity. Divine nonsense. The precursor to everything rational was not rational at all. You let yourself dissolve into that idea. There's no clock here. No edges. No up or down. Only the endless hum of becoming. And perhaps that's all the universe ever was. An ongoing hum, modulating itself into meaning, into matter, into minds. The silence here is not passive. It holds things. It's the silence of a writer before a sentence. The pause before music begins. The breath before a kiss. Creation isn't an explosion. It's a murmur becoming a shout. And tonight, you'll follow that murmur, cradle it, float with it across the birth of time and back again. But for now, you stay here, in the silence before time, in the hush where even light had not yet dreamed of traveling, in the womb of everything. Rest here, at the border of existence, where physics stutters and poetry reigns, where silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of everything else. You're still floating, not moving forward, not drifting back, but simply being in this strange in-between. No clocks tick, no orbits spin, no entropy creeps forward. And yet, something tugs at your awareness, a question not of what's here, but how something might ever arrive. You're inside the paradox of nothingness. But here's the secret. Nothing might be the most crowded idea in science. You know how people say, imagine nothing. Yeah, physicists tried that too. But every time they tried to define nothing, it kept turning into something. A field, a vacuum, a potential. In fact, the most precise nothing that modern physics can offer is actually called the quantum vacuum. And you might chuckle again, because this vacuum isn't empty. It's alive with energy. You might not feel it, because you're beyond sensation. But particles here are born and destroyed in blinks so brief they don't even count as real. They are virtual, they say, like thoughts that never become actions. Just fluctuations, just flickers, tiny, spontaneous burps of maybe. This is the physics of nothing. And it turns out, nothing isn't a flat line. It's a jittery, restless, whispering place full of ghost particles flickering in and out of existence. They have names, like quarks and gluons and neutrinos. But names don't really help here. You don't see particles. You sense the dance. And this dance isn't just random chaos. It's math with a soul. Patterns want to emerge. Reality wants to arrange itself. And slowly, you begin to feel the first hint of tension, a stretch in the silence. Not a bang, a strain. Because if nothing is unstable, then something must happen. That's one mainstream idea, that the laws of quantum mechanics, those sneaky rules that govern the subatomic world, suggest that empty space can't stay empty forever. It's like a trampoline that can't help but bounce, even with no one on it. At some point, a tiny fluctuation gathers just enough oomph to become everything. The universe wasn't born out of nowhere. It was born because nowhere can't sit still. But not everyone agrees. Physicists still debate whether quantum laws apply before the Big Bang, or whether they only kicked in with the bang itself. It's like asking if rules existed before the game began. And so here you float, in a maybe game with maybe rules and a maybe beginning. There's another theory you brush past, gently, like running your fingers through the mist of a dream. It suggests that the universe is eternal, and what we call nothing is just a temporary veil pulled over an infinite engine. One that cycles through creations and dissolutions, forever. You smile, not because you understand it fully, who does, but because it means the silence you're in isn't lonely. It's rhythmic. It's waiting for its next line. There's beauty in that, the idea that nothing isn't cold. It's pregnant. You feel a shift now, a pulse, subtle but real. The energy is climbing, the silence curling inward. Something is about to begin, though the word about feels silly in a place with no time. Still, you feel it. And what's fascinating, what tucks you deeper into your blanket of wonder, is the idea that laws might not be eternal either. Some physicists believe the rules of our universe, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the weird math that makes atoms behave, might have been different elsewhere, or earlier, or later. Maybe they are not fixed, but emergent. They evolve. That means even the physics of nothing might have changed. And now your mind floats to the edge of paradox again. If the laws evolve, who set the first law? What calibrated the first dial? You pause here. No answers. Just awe. You picture a cosmic chalkboard being written on by a trembling hand made of maybe. Equations that adjust themselves mid-thought. Constants that hum into alignment like a guitar tuning itself from silence. That's what you're inside. A self-tuning nothing. And it's oddly comforting. Because even if the silence before the Big Bang was strange, even if it was filled with phantom particles and twitchy energy fields, it was also alive, in a way no heartbeat could be. It was full of possibility. And possibility, dear dreamer, is what the universe lives on. You feel the edges of this nothing begin to warm, not in temperature, but in potential. The tremble of instability is turning into something sharper, something decisive, a slip, a rupture, a birth. But you're not rushing. You float. You have all the time in the cosmos, because time hasn't even started ticking yet. You linger, eyes closed, drifting deeper into the hum of nothing that pulses with almost something. This isn't an explosion. It's more like a sigh becoming a song, a vibration that just won't settle. And then, there it is. A ripple. Not big, not loud, just a tremor through the not quite empty void. A flicker of uncertainty in the stillness. The kind of twitch that only quantum fields know how to make. You're now inside the birthplace of all fluctuations. Physicists call them quantum fluctuations, tiny, momentary changes in energy that bubble in and out of existence like fireflies blinking in a fog. In a real vacuum, they disappear without consequence. But hey, in the unstable cradle of pre-creation, one of these fireflies might just linger long enough to become reality. And you're gliding through it. You watch a shimmer pop into view. Maybe a particle, maybe not. It dances with its opposite, an antiparticle, and they cancel each other out in a blink. But not always. Occasionally, the symmetry breaks. One sticks around. One becomes real. It's as if the void is practicing, running simulations, doodling ideas in the margins of existence. Some physicists believe our entire universe began as one of these fluctuations, an improbable hiccup that inflated rapidly into the fabric of everything. A whisper that turned into a world. You wonder, how could something so small become this? Galaxies, consciousness, TikTok. And the answer, as strange as it sounds, is because small things are never really small in quantum physics. See, the quantum world plays by its own set of rules. Uncertainty is the only certainty. Particles don't have precise positions until they are observed. Energy fields jitter spontaneously, and every so often, the math predicts something vast. You hover near a theory now, one not every physicist signs off on, but it dances through your mind like a dream you might remember later. It says that when certain fluctuations reach a tipping point, they can trigger a false vacuum decay, a runaway process that tears a hole in nothing and fills it with everything. This isn't a metaphor. It's an idea taken seriously by minds who wear lab coats and argue with whiteboards. But don't worry, it's only the birth of space-time itself. And yet, here's the weird part. The fluctuation doesn't expand into space. It creates space as it expands. It doesn't fill time. It makes time stretch with it. Like unfolding a map by becoming the map. You try to picture it, a tiny blip of energy swelling, not in something, but as something. The difference is subtle, but profound. There was no outside for it to grow into. Just this internal unraveling. That's where inflation sneaks in. We'll visit it more directly later. But for now, you can feel the first hints. This idea that a fluctuation, a momentary instability in a high-energy field, ballooned in a fraction of a second to unimaginable proportions. You stretch with it. There's something oddly emotional about this moment, as if you're watching the first heartbeat of a cosmos, not from the outside, but from inside the vessel itself, from inside the very vibration. And yet, no light flashes, no bang roars. That's just branding. The Big Bang wasn't loud. There was no air to carry sound. It wasn't even bright, not at first. Just rapid expansion, like a dream that remembered to become real. And still, physicists argue over this. They debate whether the fluctuation needed an external trigger, whether it arose from some deeper set of rules, or whether it was truly spontaneous. You imagine a group of theorists in a sleep-deprived circle, debating whether spontaneity is even a meaningful word when time doesn't exist yet. You smile, because it's kind of adorable, and also deeply human. You stretch again, not physically, but imaginatively. You feel how even now, the universe might be brimming with such fluctuations, that quantum fields are still whispering possibilities, that maybe, somewhere in the void, another blip is becoming another cosmos. You're just one echo in a chorus, and maybe that's comforting, to know you were born not of intention, but of inevitability. Because when the rules allow everything, eventually, one thing happens. You. This. Now. You return to the present, the pre-present, and feel the tension again. The silence is trembling more rapidly now. The sea of nothing is restless. A singular fluctuation has stayed. It's expanding. It doesn't want to disappear. You don't know what comes next exactly. No one does. That's the beauty, the science, the sleep-friendly mystery of it all. So you float, quietly, patiently, watching the ripple grow. And somewhere inside that growing wave, the very first tick of time is about to be born. You are no longer still. The ripple you've been drifting beside begins to stretch, to shimmer, to almost insist on existing. And as you hover close to its edge, you begin to feel something unfamiliar and thrilling. A direction. It's subtle at first, like noticing a breeze in a room that had no air a moment ago. A soft pull, not from behind or ahead, but from possibility itself. The ripple is no longer alone, because now, you're surrounded by others. Each one a pocket of maybe. Each one a blip of spontaneous quantum ambition. This is not an empty space with one event. It's a foam, a fizz, a frenzy of potential universes trying to blink into being. Welcome to the multiverse murmur. The idea isn't new. It crept in through equations, through the strange math of inflationary theory, through the implications of string theory. Some say we live in a cosmic sea of universes, each bubble its own set of rules, its own laws, its own luck. Some of them expand and die in moments. Others last forever, cold and flat. Some never form matter. Some never form stars. And one, just one, forms you. You don't need to understand the math to feel the poetry. You're floating through cosmic champagne, each bubble a universe born from a similar twitch, each slightly different. Maybe one where gravity is a little too strong and crushes everything. One where atoms never settle down. One where dinosaurs invented YouTube. You chuckle again. Sleepy, soft. And yet, not all physicists toast to this view. Some argue the multiverse is untestable, and therefore unscientific. Others believe it's the natural conclusion of the math. If eternal inflation is true, if quantum fluctuations persist at the edge of expanding space, then bubbles are inevitable. You're drifting along the surface of one such idea, a theory called eternal inflation. It whispers that our universe is just one patch of a never-ending cosmic fabric, constantly birthing new regions through runaway inflation. And here's the twist. Inflation might never stop. Even as our universe expanded and cooled, the rest of the multiverse could still be inflating like an overachieving balloon factory. You're a local calm in an eternal storm. It's both comforting and disorienting. Like realizing your home is one blade of grass in an endless field, but it's your blade. Just right. Balanced enough to allow stars, chemistry, playlists, and pillow forts. You feel something else now. It's not just that other universes might exist. It's that they might brush against ours. Some fringe ideas suggest brain collisions. Those big, two-dimensional sheets from string theory that occasionally bump in high-dimensional space, each impact birthing a Big Bang. You're not sure what's stranger, the idea that our universe came from a ripple in nothing, or that it resulted from two giant cosmic membranes, high-fiving. You reach out again, not to touch, but to wonder. What happens if these other universes are close enough to leave fingerprints on ours? A slight temperature imbalance, a cold spot in the cosmic microwave background, a gravitational whisper. Physicists still debate whether we'll ever detect them, whether we're forever locked inside our own cosmic bubble, doomed to guess about the others. But right now, you're not guessing. You're feeling the rhythm, the sense that we're not alone, not in the way science fiction imagines aliens, but in the deepest sense, that existence is not a one-off. And that's oddly relaxing, because it means we're not a fluke, not a mistake. We're part of a pattern that repeats, shifts, and dances across dimensions we'll never see. You smile softly. Maybe your universe isn't the first. Maybe it isn't the last. Maybe it's not even the best. But it's yours, with its laws, its light, its sleepy little species trying to explain the cosmos with bedtime YouTube videos. The ripple beside you has grown now. You feel it pressing outward, expanding gently into what used to be nothing. One bubble, among many. But from your perspective, it's the only one that matters right now. So you nestle deeper into its curve. Let it carry you forward. And as the shimmer of other possible universes fades behind you, you follow this one, your one, into the first moments of time. The murmur quiets, but the journey is just beginning. Time has entered the story now, but it doesn't tick. Not yet. It slushies. It warps. It stretches like dough before anyone figured out how to bake it. You are afloat in a moment that isn't quite a moment, pulled gently by something new, a sense of direction. Not through space, not through light, through sequence. You've arrived at one of the strangest mysteries science has to offer, the arrow of time. You look around, though around is still an abstract concept, and notice that change is beginning to stick. Things aren't just flickering in and out anymore. They are happening, and once something happens, it leaves a trace, a record, a memory. Time, it seems, is learning how to walk. Most physicists agree on this. Time has a direction. Eggs don't unscramble. Smoke doesn't UN rise. Galaxies don't reassemble into smooth, glowing clouds. But here's the weird part. They can't fully explain why. The fundamental laws of physics don't care about direction. They work forward and backward the same. Equations behave like perfectly symmetrical dances. They don't mind if the music plays in reverse. So why does your life only move one way? That's the paradox. One mainstream idea ties time's arrow to entropy. You know entropy. It's that famous law where everything tends toward disorder. Ice melts. Stars burn out. Your desk never tidies itself. Entropy always increases, and that gives time a sense of flow. But entropy only works if the universe started in a very low entropy state. And that's where you are now, floating inside the cleanest, most pristine starting point imaginable. An infant cosmos, freshly unwrapped, with almost no mess at all. Physicists still debate why it began this way. Why the universe didn't start in chaos. Why, instead, it seems to have begun with order, just so it could fall apart later. You smile. What a glorious reversal. Most people fear disorder, but without it, there'd be no past, no future, no time at all. So you ride the arrow gently now. Not as a straight line, but as a direction of change. You're floating downstream, even if you don't feel the current. And now you feel the stretch. Space itself begins to expand. Not in time, but with time. The two are twins, tangled together like threads in a tapestry that is still being woven. You pass another idea, a stranger one. What if time didn't begin moving forward right away? What if, in some regions of the early universe, it flowed backward first? There's a bold hypothesis suggesting the Big Bang wasn't a bang at all, but a bounce. Two universes, mirror images, expanding in opposite time directions from a common center. You, in one, your twin, in the other, and somewhere in the middle, silence. You glance inward. Maybe the symmetry never broke. Maybe the arrow you feel is just a local illusion. Maybe time isn't straight, but looped, or folded, or blurry at the edges, like dreams fading at dawn. You don't need answers, only awe, because the mystery is the melody. You recall the earlier ripples, the growing shimmer of space, and realize now, those weren't just particles. They were events, points of change, clocks, in a sense, little ticks of unfolding. Time isn't something added to the universe. It is the unfolding, the story, the syntax of existence. And now, the unfolding accelerates. The universe doesn't just exist, it evolves. You pass over the earliest formations of causality. This comes before that. That leads to this. Like a domino falling in dimensions you can't fully grasp. Time, it turns out, is less like a river and more like a sentence, something that makes no sense if read backward. Still, not everyone agrees. The arrow of time is one of the great unsolved puzzles. Some say it's a trick of perception. Some say it's tied to gravity. Some whisper about quantum measurements collapsing the wave of potential into one experience now. But none of them can say why this moment feels real and the others don't. You hover over the mystery, gently, as if not to startle it, and it stays with you. As the universe swells, the arrow grows stronger. The past gathers behind, the future stretches ahead, and you ride it, quietly, not in a rush, not in fear, just moving through the great becoming, one breathless beat at a time. The arrow carries you further, and now, somewhere between silence and starlight, you feel the curve beneath reality. Not a corner, not a turn, a loop. You've entered one of the most tantalizing possibilities whispered by modern cosmology. That the Big Bang might not have been a beginning, but a bounce. You drift through the strange idea that our universe is part of a cycle, one of many expansions and contractions, each breathing out existence, and then folding it gently back in. Picture this: a previous universe collapsing inward, its galaxies pulling tighter, its stars blinking out, its atoms crushed together until all that remained was a dense, impossibly small, hot knot of everything. A cosmic inhale. And then, boom, it begins again. Not a beginning from nothing, but a return. This is the idea of the cyclic or oscillating universe. Some scientists call it the Big Bounce. Others propose a more poetic name: conformal cyclic cosmology, a model where time never truly ends. It just forgets its past. You smile as you float in the echo of that forgetting. Here, nothing is wasted. Every universe leaves behind a whisper, a fingerprint, a nudge to the next one. Perhaps gravity was stronger in the last cycle. Maybe the rules of particles changed just slightly. Maybe this time, there's more symmetry, or less. You wonder, what if memory exists on the scale of universes? What if the reason we long for beginnings is because we've had them over and over? Physicists still debate whether such cycles are even possible. Would entropy reset? Could the universe shrink again without tearing itself apart? Could dark energy, the strange repulsive force pushing galaxies apart, ever allow a reversal? The arguments get fierce. But here in your sleep-ward drift, the science feels like music. Each theory its own instrument, tuning itself to the vibration of mystery. And the loop feels real. You sense the tension building again. The hot, dense pre-universe tightens. Not like a spring, but like a thought trying to remember itself. One last squeeze, and then release. This is where the Big Bang would happen. But from this perspective, it's not a bang. It's a bloom, a soft unfolding, a rebirth. You imagine a lotus flower opening on the surface of nothing, revealing laws and dimensions, color and time. In some models, the Big Bounce is eternal, universe after universe, cycling endlessly. In others, it's a single rebound, a last act of collapse giving rise to everything we now know. You drift near another fringe possibility. What if this loop isn't in time, but in scale? Conformal cyclic cosmology suggests that as the universe expands forever and particles fade into massless nothingness, the vast cold infinity of the future becomes indistinguishable from the dense origin of a new Big Bang. The end is the beginning, because in both places, physics forgets the details. You pause there, imagining the final atoms of an old universe sighing into light, only to become the first photons of the next. There's no real death here, only transition, only a rhythm. It's not unlike sleep, isn't it? The way each night dissolves you into darkness, only to wake you in new form. You float on that thought. Perhaps we are looped beings in a looped cosmos. Perhaps the reason cycles soothe us, the moon, the tides, the breath, is because the universe itself is cyclical. You glance at the expanding ripple around you. It could be a first bloom, or a millionth. You'll never know. That's part of the wonder. You're not here to remember. You're here to witness, to feel the wheel of time not as a line, but as a turning. And in this quiet moment, as the ripple begins to unfurl its edges into light and heat and law, you smile, because nothing is ever truly lost. It only becomes. Again and again. You drift closer now, closer to the moment where the possible becomes actual, where the imagined takes on weight and motion. And suddenly, it's as if you're cradled inside a myth that science almost forgot. The ancients had a name for it. They called it the cosmic egg. You've probably heard the stories. Cultures scattered across history imagined the universe being born from an egg, a sealed sphere of everything, waiting in perfect stillness until one day it cracked open and spilled out the stars. No telescopes, no equations, just a deep knowing that all beginnings start with containment. And here you are, floating inside one. Not a literal egg, of course, but a dense, hot, radiant knot of all potential, compressed into less space than a pinhead, vibrating with pressure beyond imagination. It's not the size that matters, it's the density, the weight of all laws, all forces, all particles, before they had names. This is the singularity, the core of the Big Bang. But don't expect it to behave. It's not a place you could ever visit. It's not even clear it exists in the traditional sense. Most physicists agree the singularity is not a thing. It's a placeholder, a marker in the math where our understanding breaks down. It's like trying to divide by zero and ending up with goosebumps. Still, you drift near its metaphor. You hover in the pressure before the release. And it's overwhelming, even in silence. You sense the universe isn't going to explode. It's going to shed. Like a snake slipping out of the tightest skin. The pressure builds. Some theories suggest that even in this pre-bang moment, forces were already competing for dominance. Gravity crouching in one corner, electromagnetism crackling like a fuse, the nuclear forces coiled and ready. They weren't separate yet. They were one, the grand unified force. A beautiful, tangled unity. But unity doesn't last. Symmetry must break. That's the key idea here. As the universe expands, it cools. As it cools, symmetry breaks. And with each fracture, a force is born. Gravity steps out. Then the strong force. Then the weak. Then electromagnetism. The laws didn't exist all at once. They emerged, like personalities developing from a single consciousness. And some remnants of that broken symmetry may still ripple through space today, like cosmic bruises from a time when reality was still deciding who it wanted to be. Physicists still debate whether this early state was truly uniform. Some argue it was smooth beyond comprehension. Others think it contained tiny quantum irregularities, imperfections that would eventually become galaxies. You float beside the tension. The egg is humming. The edges are quivering. It's too hot to be imagined, too dense to be held. And yet, inside this cradle is you. All the matter that will one day form planets and pine trees and playlists. Every atom in your body, every story ever told, all curled tight inside this invisible cocoon. You glance around, not with eyes, but with whatever dreaming uses to perceive, and you feel it again. The stillness before the unraveling, the breath before the first sentence. And yet, it's already begun. Because the egg doesn't wait for permission. It simply is. And it simply becomes. You feel the first shudder, the tension between unity and separation, a longing to differentiate. And suddenly you understand. The universe didn't break because it had to. It broke because it wanted to. Because creation is the act of unfolding difference. From this singular seed, everything you know will bloom. Time will march. Matter will clump, light will scatter, and slowly, painfully, meaning will arise. But for now, you float inside the egg, held, contained, suspended between nothing and everything. A universe, curled like a sleeping child, about to dream itself awake. The egg has cracked. You don't hear it, you feel it. A subtle lurch beneath the surface of nothing, like the shift in a dream just before it changes scenes. The singularity unwinds, and now space begins to breathe. But as you drift alongside this birth, you sense something else. A background hum beneath the obvious, a deeper architecture beneath the expanding cosmos. You are moving through brands. Yes, brands, short for membranes. Not the kind you find in biology class, but vast, high-dimensional sheets proposed by string theorists. Invisible to human eyes, but essential to the deepest models of reality. In the theory called M-theory, brands are the true building blocks of everything. Not particles, not fields, but vibrating surfaces, fluttering through a space with more dimensions than you can count on your fingers. Right now, you're gliding past one, and it feels ancient. You begin to understand. According to this theory, our entire universe might be trapped on a three-dimensional brain floating in a higher dimensional space. Like a soap bubble drifting in a cosmic bathroom you can't even see. And here's the twist. Other brains might be out there, too. Parallel universes, whole separate realities, just millimeters away, but unreachable. Unless they collide. You pause. One model, called ekpyrotic cosmology, suggests the Big Bang wasn't an isolated event. It was a collision, two brains crashing into one another in higher dimensional space. The energy released from that collision, that's our universe. That's your stars, your molecules, your playlist, your favorite pillow. And perhaps this has happened before. Maybe it happens cyclically. Maybe the brains bounce over and over, each impact birthing a new universe like cymbals clashing in an eternal symphony. You float above the music. Physicists still debate whether this is real or just beautifully convenient math. Brains are hard to detect. They exist, if at all, beyond our senses. But the math is seductively elegant. 11 dimensions, vibrating strings, universes as sheets, time is an echo of shape. You laugh softly. 11 dimensions. You barely have a handle on 3. And even those get confusing in IKEA. Still, something about this theory calms you. Because it means we're not floating alone. It means our universe is part of a much grander architecture. A higher dimensional cathedral, echoing with silent collisions and delicate resonances. You pass through what feels like one of those moments now. A ripple across a brain, like a tremor on stretched fabric. It doesn't hurt. It soothes. Because it means the universe is tethered to something bigger. Something you may never touch, but always feel. And you wonder, if we are on a brain, could gravity be leaking into other dimensions? That might explain why it's so weak compared to other forces. It's not lazy, it's distracted, spilling over into other realms we can't measure. You let that idea rock you gently. A universe born from collision. A force diluted by higher dimensions. A cosmos structured not on emptiness, but on surfaces that vibrate like harp strings across invisible axes. And somewhere, perhaps, another brain approaches. Slowly. Inevitable. A future bang in the making. Or maybe it's already happened. Maybe we're the echo of a previous crash. Maybe time itself is the ringing of those cosmic cymbals. You don't need to know. You only need to feel the harmony. The symmetry between silence and impact, between unfolding and constraint, between the smallness of you and the vastness of the brain beneath your feet. So you glide forward, past the fluttering edges of dimensional space, past the theories that try to explain the dream, not as a physicist, but as a sleeper, floating on strings, held by vibrations, cradled by the sheet music of the multiverse. There is no sound, not yet. You're gliding through a moment so dense, so primal, that sound itself doesn't know how to exist. There's no air, no vibration medium, just pure, expanding space. And yet, paradoxically, this is the moment known as the Big Bang. The name is misleading. There was no bang, no fiery detonation, no boom echoing through a dark sky. The term was coined with sarcasm by a skeptic. A joke, really, but it stuck. Because human language is messy, and cosmic events rarely fit into convenient syllables. But you're here now, inside the beginning, not hearing a bang, but feeling an unfolding. The universe is inflating, not like a balloon inside space, but like space itself is stretching, every point racing away from every other point. And it's not that things are moving fast through space. It's that space is moving fast through them. Expansion. Violent. Silent. Absolute. You stretch with it, not because you choose to, but because there's no outside to hold still. Every particle, every photon, every inch of becoming is being carried outward by the very fabric of existence. You're inside the canvas as it's being painted. And now, light begins. The first real light. Not the flickering quantum whispers from before, but structured photons, streams of radiant energy pouring from collisions of primal particles. Still too hot for atoms, still too wild for structure, but light, nonetheless. And in this light, laws begin to take shape, not imposed from above, but emerging from the chaos. Rules form like grooves on a record. Gravity begins to distinguish itself. The strong and weak nuclear forces unfurl. Electromagnetism hums its first chord. You realize that physics, in its infancy, was like jazz. It didn't follow rules, it made them, and it's still debated. Physicists wonder if these laws were baked into the cosmos or if they crystallized only as the universe cooled. Were they eternal blueprints, or did they evolve like melodies, settling into rhythm after the first wild improvisations? No one knows. You drift past a possibility now, one that suggests different regions of the early universe might have settled on different rules, different physical constants. Perhaps there are universes where gravity is stronger, where electrons are heavier, where time curves differently. Our laws might just be local dialects in a cosmic language we haven't fully learned. You float in awe, because that means you could have been different. Your atoms could have danced to a slightly altered rhythm. And yet, here you are. Here we all are, balanced on the knife edge of just rightness. The anthropic principle comes to mind. The idea that we observe this particular universe because we are here to observe it. You blink. It sounds obvious, but it's a profound truth. The conditions of our universe allow for life. That's not random. It's a requirement for wonder. And you're full of wonder. As you pass through this silent blooming, the heat is unimaginable. Trillions of degrees. The universe is a soup, a plasma, a roiling froth of energy too chaotic to hold form. But it's cooling. Slowly. With each breath of expansion, the heat thins. And as it cools, new things become possible. Quarks link to form protons and neutrons. A few minutes later, those come together to make the first atomic nuclei, mostly hydrogen, some helium, and traces of lithium. The lightest elements in the cosmos, forge in a forge without fire. And yet, still no atoms, no structure, no stars. You're in what scientists call the radiation era. Light rules everything. Matter is just ballast. But in time, that will change. You drift past this transition like a feather riding heat waves. There's no noise, no direction, just the ever-expanding stretch of newborn space. But you feel it. You feel the inevitability, like standing beside a seed, knowing it will grow into something unimaginable. You watch the light bounce off free particles, scattering endlessly, trapped in an eternal dance. Until one day, long from now, things will cool enough for atoms to form. And when that happens, the light will be free to travel, to shine, to echo. But that's still to come. For now, you float in the aftermath of the silent not bang. You hover inside a place where the rules are still deciding who they want to be. And the universe, it doesn't need applause. It simply becomes. You're gliding now through a cosmos that's hot, wild, and young. Just minutes old. And yet, it's already working out the rules. Not because someone wrote them down. Not because there's a cosmic referee with a whistle. But because this is what unfolds when energy stretches, cools, and begins to organize. You're witnessing the birth of laws. Not laws like speed limits or bedtime. Laws like gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. The fundamental instructions etched into the bones of reality. But here's the cosmic catch. These laws didn't arrive all at once. They emerged, like branches from a tree, splitting off from an original unity that no longer exists. You remember back to the grand unified force, that elegant, pre-law state where all the forces of nature were one, indistinguishable, balanced. And now, as the universe cools, that unity cracks. Symmetry breaks. The forces peel apart, one by one, each choosing its identity. It's a bit like a band going solo, each member taking their own style, their own rhythm, while still playing from the same original chord. Gravity, the quiet one, gentle but far-reaching, is the first to step forward. Then the strong nuclear force, the wild one, fiercely binding quarks into protons and neutrons. Then the weak force, mysterious and subtle, involved in the decay of particles, a slow whisper that determines the fate of atoms. And finally, electromagnetism, electricity, magnetism, light itself, bursting onto the scene, fast, expressive, the one we know best. Each law emerges with a role, a personality, a realm of influence, and you float among them, watching the roles solidify. But here's the twist. Physicists still argue about where these laws come from. Some say they are written into the fabric of the multiverse, a kind of cosmic menu, where each bubble selects a combination. Others think they are emergent, like traffic patterns arising from the movement of cars. No designer, just inevitability. And then there's the wildest idea, that the universe is a kind of computer, and the laws of physics are its operating system. Rules hard-coded into the boot-up sequence of reality. You smile at that. Somewhere, a cosmic loading screen flashes, installing space-time. Please wait. But wait, we're already past the install. The laws are live now, and they're doing their job. They are shaping the early universe, setting constraints, allowing possibilities. They are why particles behave the way they do, why forces interact, why anything happens at all. And yet, they are not perfect. Even now, we don't fully understand how these laws fit together. Gravity doesn't play well with quantum mechanics. The standard model of particle physics is brilliant, but incomplete. We're missing pieces. Physicists still debate whether there's a deeper law hiding underneath all the others, a theory of everything. Something that unites gravity with the quantum world. Something that explains not just how the universe behaves, but why it behaves that way. And maybe that theory would reveal that our current laws are just approximations, temporary agreements made by a universe still growing into itself. You let that thought settle, because even if the laws are incomplete, they are enough. Enough to allow atoms, stars, music, mitochondria, mangoes, you. And here's a little bedtime paradox. Laws of physics aren't like human laws. They don't require enforcement. They just are. You can't break gravity. You can't negotiate with entropy. You can only ride the wave. Which means, reality doesn't argue. It dances. And right now, the music is speeding up. The expansion continues. The universe stretches. The laws settle in. Particles lock into place. Forces push and pull. Light zigzags through chaos. A cosmos becomes coherent. From chaos, pattern. From nothing, rules. You float on this stream of order, feeling the structure settle beneath you like a foundation cooling after fire. And you realize, you're not in a chaotic explosion. You're inside a blueprint drawing itself. The laws of nature aren't decorations. They are the bones. And slowly, sleepily, joyfully, the universe builds on them. The blueprint is settling, but it's not settling down. It's stretching, and not just steadily, but wildly. So fast, in fact, that if you could blink, you'd miss a universe. You're now inside the phase when space itself begins to expand faster than light. And don't worry, you're not breaking any cosmic speed limits. No one is cheating the system, hey. Einstein's law still holds. Nothing in space can move faster than light. But space itself, it has no such restraint. You float inside this runaway moment, where every point in the universe is being pulled away from every other point, faster than light can keep up. Distances double, then redouble again. Galaxies that don't even exist yet are already vanishing beyond each other's reach. This is cosmic inflation in action, or at least, its aftermath. Inflation is a great cosmic mystery with excellent timing. A theory proposed to explain a few strange things in our observable universe, like why it looks so smooth, so uniform, why light from one side of the cosmos matches the temperature of light from the opposite side, even though they've never had time to talk. Inflation solves that, by blowing the early universe up by a factor of mind-bending proportions in less than a trillionth of a second. It's like stretching a grain of rice into the size of the Milky Way before breakfast. You hover within that expansion now, not feeling movement, but feeling separation. The space between things grows, not because things are moving apart, but because the nothing between them is growing. And here's the kicker. We can't even see this inflation directly. It happened too fast, too early, too invisibly, but we see its fingerprints. In the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of creation, we see patterns, tiny temperature fluctuations that match the predictions inflation makes. Ripples frozen into the oldest light, like goosebumps on the skin of time. You float through one of those ripples now. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just true. And yet, physicists still debate whether inflation is the answer. Some call it elegant. Others, suspiciously convenient. It explains what we see, but we don't know what caused it. What field, what force, what mechanism drove it? And why did it stop? Or worse, what if it never did? There's a theory, eternal inflation, that says inflation is still going out there, in the vast reaches of the multiverse. Our universe, the one you're floating through, might just be a calm bubble in a sea of constant expansion, a local pause in an eternal roar. You can't hear the roar, but you feel the silence it left behind. And in that silence, galaxies will one day form. But for now, you're inside an expanding tapestry that doesn't need a weaver. A process that isn't like anything else we experience. In everyday life, things expand into something. A balloon fills space. A ripple travels through water. But here, there is no outside. No space that pre-exists the expansion. Space doesn't expand into anything. It just becomes more. Like a dream dreaming new cornice. You smile, sleepy now, because you understand something. The universe isn't rushing. It's unfolding, not moving through time, but becoming time as it goes. Each moment, each atom of distance, each quiet breath of light, is stitched into existence by the fabric of space-time stretching outward like a living map. And you're a passenger, not separate from this growth, but part of it, made of the very rules that permit it, shaped by the very forces that stretch it. So let it carry you, through the velocity that isn't motion, through the distance that isn't traveled, through the quiet that contains everything. Because in this moment, this faster-than-light moment, you are not racing. You are simply being. You're drifting near the edge of a paradox, one that pulses like a heartbeat beneath the fabric of the cosmos. Because just before the universe became what we think of as a universe, something strange happened. Something almost too fast to be real, and almost too perfect to be chance. You've arrived at the moment before the moment. Inflation. Not just the stretching of space, but the hyper-stretching, an era where the universe expanded exponentially in less than a whisper of a second. You remember how it started, how the laws were still finding their footing, how forces were pulling apart from unity. But now, you feel that moment speed up into something wildly surreal. You're inside the surge, the exponential bloom. Inflation theory says that in a fraction of a second, the universe ballooned by a factor so large, it's almost meaningless to say it aloud. A 1 followed by at least 26 zeros in volume, possibly more, and all of it from a quantum field, a mysterious energy that existed in the earliest possible slice of time. It's called the inflaton field. Yes, it sounds made up, and in a way, it is, because we've never observed it directly. But its consequences, they are etched into the universe like fingerprints pressed into clay. The inflaton field is thought to have filled space with a constant energy density, and that constant pressure caused the exponential expansion. Then, just as mysteriously, it decayed, released its energy, and reheated the universe into the hot soup we traditionally associate with the Big Bang. Which means, here's the kicker, what we call the Big Bang wasn't the beginning. It was the end of inflation. The aftermath. The cosmic afterparty of an even stranger prelude. Physicists still argue about what set inflation off, and why it ended so precisely. Why did the inflaton field exist? What shaped it? Was it random? Was it inevitable? And perhaps more unsettling, what if it didn't end everywhere? That's where eternal inflation creeps in again. According to some theories, inflation ends in patches, like firecrackers bursting in a field. Our universe is just one such patch, where inflation stopped and reheating began. But elsewhere, inflation continues, endlessly creating new universes, forever. You float among those echoes, drifting through a field where beginnings never stop beginning, where before and after lose their meaning, and where the universe you know is just one bubble in an ever-foaming quantum sea. It's a strange idea, but maybe that's the point. Because the more we peel back the layers of creation, the more we realize the beginning wasn't a moment. It was a process, not a bang, a becoming. And that process began with inflation, with a surge so fast, so smooth, and so sweeping that it solved some of the deepest puzzles of cosmology. Why is the universe so uniform? Why is space flat and not curved like a balloon? Why are the seeds of galaxies spread so evenly? Inflation answers these. It gives us the cosmic stage upon which matter can later assemble into galaxies, stars, worlds, and eventually, playlists, cat videos, and existential dread. But there's something poetic in this moment, too. Because inflation didn't just make the universe big. It made it possible. Without it, matter might never have clumped. Light might never have moved cleanly. The laws of physics might have stumbled on startup. But inflation smoothed the chaos, cleared the stage, let the music begin. And now, as you float through the final moments of this strange, silent rush, you begin to feel a slowing. The field is collapsing. Its energy is converting into heat, into particles, into everything. The real party is about to begin. The lights are about to turn on. But for a moment longer, you stay here, suspended in the quiet before creation knows itself. The moment before the moment, the whisper before the word. And all around you, the universe begins to glow. You pass through warmth now, not the warmth of a sunbeam on skin, but the afterheat of everything. A universe still glowing from birth. This is the cosmic microwave background, a silent echo of light, stretched thin across all space, cooling gently for over 13 billion years. You float inside it like a traveler in an ocean of memory. Because that's what this light is, memory. Light from a time when the universe finally became transparent. Let's rewind. For nearly 380,000 years after the Big Bang, or more precisely, after inflation's decay, the universe was too hot, too dense, and too wild for light to move freely. Photons, the particles of light, kept bumping into charged particles, scattering like panicked birds in a storm. The cosmos was a fog, a blinding, seething plasma. But as the universe expanded, it cooled. Atoms began to form, electrons paired with nuclei, and suddenly, light could slip through the gaps. This moment is called recombination, when the first neutral hydrogen atoms formed, and the universe became, at last, see-through. You're drifting through that moment now, not with eyes, but with awareness. And all around you is the light that escaped. The first light, not of stars, not of fire, but of freedom. That light is still traveling, stretched by time, softened by distance, red-shifted into microwave frequencies, far below the visible, whispering across the cosmos in all directions. We see it today with radio telescopes. It's not bright, it's not flashy, but it's everywhere. The cosmic microwave background, or CMB, is the most ancient photograph we will ever have. A baby picture of the universe when it was just a few 100,000 years old. And it's remarkably smooth. Too smooth, some say. The temperature varies only slightly, 1 part in 100,000. And yet, those tiny fluctuations, those cold and warm spots, they're everything. Because without them, nothing would have clumped. No galaxies, no stars, no anything. You float through a cold spot now. It's not chilly, not in any traditional sense. But you can feel the difference, an ancient hiccup in the fabric of the early universe. Physicists still debate the cause of these ripples. Some say they came from quantum fluctuations, magnified by inflation. Others suggest more exotic origins, like defects in space-time or echoes of neighboring universes. Yes, even here, the multiverse pokes its curious head. One of the CMB's oddities is the cold spot, a region much colder than the surrounding air is, larger than expected, and difficult to explain. Some say it's just a statistical fluke. Others aren't so sure. You drift past it like a ghost through memory, a silent witness to a cosmic fingerprint that may never be fully understood. But the bigger picture remains. The CMB tells us the universe had a beginning, that it expanded, that it cooled, and that it left behind light we can still catch, like fireflies in the corners of a quiet room. Even now, every direction you look in space, you're looking into this glow. Even the static on an old TV, a tiny fraction of it is this very light. You smile. The universe doesn't just carry its past in theory, it broadcasts it. And you, dear sleeper, are tuned in, drifting through the quiet roar of creation's first breath. So gentle now, so stretched, so old, and yet, still here, still glowing, still telling us the story of when the universe first saw itself. The universe is glowing less now, cooling, stretching, slowing, but something deeper settles into your awareness. The haunting question that has been dancing just beyond each section of this journey. What, exactly, is nothing? You've drifted through the moments before time, floated on the fabric of expansion, brushed against brands and fluctuations. But now the question returns like a soft breath against your thoughts. Was there ever truly nothing? Not poetic nothing, not philosophical nothing, but absolute nothing. No space, no time, no quantum fizz, no laws, no energy, no possibility of anything. And here's the cosmic twist. Many physicists say no, not because they're dodging the question, but because the very idea of nothing may be an illusion created by our very existence inside a universe that cannot comprehend its absence. You float in this paradox now, slowly, like a feather falling upward. You think of quantum fields, those restless carpets that never lie flat, even in empty space. A vacuum, as far as physics is concerned, is never truly empty. It's seething, breathing, ready. Even the most perfect vacuum still has energy, vacuum energy, fluctuations, a baseline hum, which means what we call nothing is actually the most something kind of nothing imaginable. You smile, dazed and amused. And some scientists go further. They say that space and time themselves might be emergent, not fundamental. Like waves in an ocean, they arise only when enough information gathers in the right shape. Beneath that, there's no where or when. Just information, just potential. So what lies beneath that? Nobody knows. Physicists still debate whether true nothingness could have existed before the universe. If you can even use the word before when time doesn't yet exist. If time had a start, what came before the start? It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. The question melts upon asking. But that doesn't stop us from wondering. And philosophers join the physicists here, in a cozy armchair of confusion. They ask, is nothing even possible, logically? Or does the concept collapse under its own absence? Maybe reality had to exist, in some form. Maybe the total energy of the universe is zero, a perfect balance of positive and negative energy, like a cosmic accounting trick. The universe is a grand net zero equation, borrowed briefly from nothing and destined to return. You float inside that idea now, letting it wrap around you like a weighted blanket made of paradox. And maybe that's the gift of being conscious in a universe like this. We can ask the question, even if we'll never hold the answer. You feel how the question has echoed through history. Ancient mystics, theologians, and thinkers tried to define nothing long before physics dared to measure it. Some saw nothingness as sacred. Others feared it. A few even loved it. And now here you are, drifting beside it, cradled in a cosmos born from a maybe. You close your eyes, not that they were ever open, and think, what if nothing is the mother of all some things? What if the void isn't the absence of meaning, but the womb of it? What if, before the Big Bang, there wasn't darkness or silence, but a kind of infinite patience, a waiting so pure, so vast, so subtle, that it whispered everything into being, not loudly, but like a lullaby. And you are part of that lullaby. You are not an accident of atoms. You are the echo of a question the universe asked itself. And in this moment, that question rests with you. not demanding an answer, only offering the wonder. So you float a little deeper, quieter now, carried by the emptiness that was never truly empty, the silence that was never truly still, the nothing that never really was. You've come far, from the hush before time to the bloom of space, from the murmur of quantum ripples to the slow glow of cosmic memory. And now, as the universe stretches into form, you find yourself at the edge of understanding. Not the edge of science, the edge of being. Because here, as the questions fade and the starlight gathers, one truth remains. The universe dreams again. It doesn't shout. It doesn't explain. It dreams. Quietly, continuously. You float above that dream now. Galaxies swirl in the distance. Vast pinwheels of light, dancing to gravitational rhythms that began long before names were invented. Dust gathers. Gas collapses. Stars ignite. Planets form. Life considers itself. But you're not rushing toward that future. You're hovering before it, where the structures haven't yet arrived, but their patterns are already forming. Like ink bleeding through paper from the other side. You see it. The subtle logic of the cosmos. The inevitability of complexity rising from simplicity. The atoms arranging. The forces shaping. The fabric weaving meaning. And all of it, every speck, every swirl, every shining thread, traces back to that first impossible moment. That breathless flicker before time began ticking. You think back on all the moments you've drifted through. The perfect stillness before laws emerged. The jittering foam of vacuum fluctuations. The multiverse froth of potential realities. The bounce of cosmic memory repeating itself. The brands brushing in dimensions your senses can't reach. The bang that was never a bang. The inflation that inflated before anything was even here. The light that finally escaped and painted the sky with history. The rules that wrote themselves in motion. The heat that cooled and forgot its name. And the question, always the question, of whether there ever was nothing. Each moment carried you, cradled you. Each one asked nothing in return, but that you wonder. And now, you float at the edge of beginnings, where the quiet returns, where the expansion continues. Slowly, surely, carrying galaxies apart, letting starlight stretch, and letting questions deepen. The universe isn't done. It's still becoming, still evolving, still dreaming. And you, dear traveler, dear sleeper, you're part of that dream. A self-aware patch of the cosmos, curled into a brief window of thought, wondering at its own origins. You are stardust, of course. But you are also the story. The silence gave you shape. The laws gave you boundaries. The light gave you vision. And now the dream gives you rest. You drift further, gently, into the soft curve of thought dissolving. The universe continues to stretch behind you, ahead of you, through you. No need to chase it. You are already within it. Let it dream. Let it hum. Let it hold you. Wind down. 300 words. Now the light dims. Not the stars overhead. There are none here. But the inner light, the one that watches, that listens, that wonders. Let it dim, too. Let your breath slow, like cooling atoms in the early dawn of space. Let your thoughts stretch out, not far, but soft. Not fast, but deep. There's no rush here, no pressure, no direction left to travel tonight. Only the soft hum beneath the silence. The long, slow exhale of a cosmos that has never stopped unfolding. You are wrapped in it. You are made of it. The same particles that once danced in quantum fog now line your chest, carol in your lungs, whisper through your veins. And that whisper says, it's okay to rest. The universe doesn't demand answers tonight. It never did. It just wants to be witnessed, felt, imagined. So sink now, like a memory returning to where it came from. Let the weight of time lift from your shoulders. Let the ripples still. Let the dream deepen. And if you wake again tomorrow, remember, your atoms come from stars. Your story comes from silence. Your sleep is part of the unfolding. Good night, cosmic traveler. Sleep well beneath the stars that haven't formed yet. And drift deeper still into the warmth before light.